A supposed image of the combined Immortal Empires world map has been found in the game files for Warhammer 3. This was posted on Reddit earlier this week, and I can tell you with 100% certainty it is legitimate. And I do apologize for the mic quality and the lack of scripting on this one, as it was just something I was so excited to talk about that I wanted to get it out sooner rather than later. If you use Rusted Pack File Manager and open the Terrain pack, you will find under Campaigns the Warhammer 3 main combined map, including the pieces of the map that will then go into the final game. So, what's actually in there? This is by far the simplest thing. If you add it all together, though, it makes a very complex portrait of what's still to come, and there's a lot of information to break down here. But here's the thing. The Creative Assembly has officially said this is not the combined Immortal Empires map, which is funny because I have no less than 3 sources that says it is. The Creative Assembly also said the same thing when the combined Warhammer 2 map was found already in the game files, and it turned out being about 98% the same. And undoubtedly what we're seeing here is representative of what will be in the final game, or something very close to it. And what is it that we actually have? Well, most of you are familiar with this image. Basic black and white, and shows the rough layout of what appears to be the entire global map of the Warhammer world, which many of you were hoping for, and it's good to see it here, as it opens up a lot of possibilities for what's going to come in the future, including End in Koresh, which we'll get to in a minute. But for now, let's talk about the larger map. So the thing that I've done here is I've actually pulled the other different layers that go into making a global map. It's not just a borders map. By the way, these aren't borders, they're actually roads. You can tell if you zoom in really closely that they just end at random places. So this is actually probably a river that goes down to there, and these are roads that go there. So it's either roads going up to cities or rivers, as I said there. But when you look at the combined map put together, you can actually find that they overlay over top of each other. And this is actually how the game designs how it will display. This is something that's been held over even from Rome Total War and Medieval 2. It uses these pictures to translate certain information onto the final map. One of them is the normal map. Normal map is used as a bump map, so you can actually see the kind of rough idea of what the terrain will look like. We have a mountain range here, one running down the spine of the New World. Similarly, a blend map, which in this case shows where trees and other large objects will be. So like you'll notice, End in Koresh will have trees around their borders here. We'll have some in the forest of Lustria, and each of these areas of gray represents a different type of geologic feature. So it could be large deserts, large mesas, but lots of different environments represented in broad strokes. A snow map, which shows exactly which areas will be covered in snow in the final game, including down on the South Pole, implying that we will be able to visit and see it. And finally, to help you kind of see how the map puts together a little better, I've just done a colored overlay. Anything that's blue is water. If it's green, it's going to be land. If it's gray, it's going to be impassable terrain, something that you can't go to as a player. Combine them all together, and you have a game map, and one that looks like something that many of you have already seen. Now in this case, you'll notice this represents shallow seas going around known locations, and you can see also mountain ranges, and interestingly, End and Koresh. And even though they're on the map, you actually won't be able to explore them when the game first launches, if this is indeed very close to the final version. And we can tell that because if you zoom in, you'll notice the bump map reveals a mountain range right along the edge here. So you'll be able to travel along the edge of it, but the southern parts will not be visitable. So, in a recent interview with Andy Hall, the lore representative for the Creative Assembly, who previously worked at Games Workshop, he said there's no chance in hell we'll ever see End in Koresh. Well, that's not true. He said there's not very likely in the future. Clearly this says otherwise. You're not going to dedicate, let's say 10-15% of your map to something that's not going to be in the game later. So, even though they aren't fully fleshed out now, there's no reason these locations can't be more fleshed out later. But you'll notice it doesn't have any mountains or any kind of terrain, so I wouldn't expect them anytime soon, to say the least. Besides what's just included here, though, it's also interesting what hasn't been. Nippon on the far coast here, and even the islands inhabited by the High Elf Sea Patrol also has not been included. Now, we saw in Warhammer 2 that this map can be rather easily extended, and not only that, there's already something in the files that's suggesting that it will be in the very near future, because it has a patch mask. So, when you get the game, it won't have this little Korea-esque thing on the right, and a lot of the Southlands won't be on there as well, implying that at a later date, this patch mask can be removed. This is how they build something and then hide it from you at the same time, so you don't access it and see it until CA wants you to. So it's definitely possible we'll still see Nippon and those islands in the future. The look of this map also reveals one of the last big questions people have about how it will play. It is not going to be a sphere. It will not be wraparound, it looks like, in a similar vein to how the Civilization series works. It looks like here we're going to go back to something closer to what we've seen with previous Total War maps, in that we'll have some sort of teleportation zone that allows you to go from here to the other side of the world. Now, it looks like we won't have one in the northern hemispheres. You'll notice this map goes all the way to the very edge, and there doesn't appear to be any kind of location where you'd be able to port over. Possibly one here, likely another one there. And I say that because if you port to the other side, there's a nice little handy gap that allows you to continue on around the oceans and travel around the world. And this is a very big map. To give you an idea of size context, this is the normal map of the upcoming game with the bumps and stuff on it. This is the normal map from Warhammer 2. It is a 50% increase in size from the Warhammer 2 map. Not only that, if you look at the overlays, they match almost perfectly. So the existing size of the Immortal Empires map will remain the same. Everything here is just added on top of it, so you won't lose any space. And when you look at the file size comparison, you'll see just how much bigger even these basic pixel maps are to represent those spaces. Now, Total War is very consistent in that 1 pixel typically equals 1 in-game unit, which is like a meter roughly. You can see the same thing if you've ever done map modding. They're very consistent inside the engine. So when this number increases here from this number, they mean it. It translates to something larger in size in the game. One of the big changes, though, from the Game 2 map is actually the configuration of the Old World and the Southlands. All of Lustria and Ulthuan and even Naggarond are pretty much exactly the same, but the Old World has been stretched to have more of those Old World favorite factions be playable and take up more space on the map, while the Southlands itself has been squished a little bit. Because let's be honest, there's nothing but jungle down here and pretty much nothing but repeated lizardmen. And as fun as that is, these are the guys that actually sell DLC, so it makes sense to focus on that region. You'll notice the Realms of Chaos don't make an appearance on this map. They seem to have just been added for the scripted campaign. There's going to be no porting out to something else, none of the narrative elements like we saw in the Vortex and Warhammer 2. As a layout, it seems very cool and one I'm definitely excited to try out. It combines the wish list of nearly everything we saw on the internet that you asked for to make one giant map, and it looks like it's going to be fun for years to come, with a lot of possibilities for expansion in the future, including a very large Araby-shaped hole in this region right here. So what do you think? Is this everything you hoped for in a combined map? And do you think we'll still see some of these races to come? Because all the indicators point to yes, but only time will tell. So leave your comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.